wonderful gift that God gave us that Christians invented, from Isaac Newton to Kepler. All Christians who did not find it difficult to reconcile science and God. They simply thought that God allowed them to create science because science was simply a way of saying, let's see what God has done. But atheists have a Genesis story. You have to. Have to start somewhere. But they're doctorates and double doctorates. They're educators. They speak at Oxford and they write books. They're atheists and believe in a meaningless universe, and then they write 500-page books describing the meaningless universe and find meaning in their conclusions. They have a Genesis story, but theirs comes from reason and rationale, not in this invisible God in the sky. We believe only empirical reasoning, and those are things that we can verify, things that are smart and intelligent and rational. Ours is simple. It goes like this. In the beginning, there was nothing, and it blew up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Krystal Tini TV. Today I have a cool guest on named Stine. He's a comedian that speaks truth, that speaks actual truth. I know that he's been on a tour right now and he's got some exciting things that he's doing, but he's speaking the truth no matter what. And that's what counts today, because everyone is so afraid of being canceled. Everyone is so afraid of being blacklisted. And clearly I'm one of those people that doesn't really care. So welcome, Stine, today to Krystal Tini TV. So I said, basically, I've watched a lot of your videos and I've seen your truthful content, which I am in the same, category as you, just not the comedy. And I love what you do and I love all of your messages. How has that changed for you over the course of years, like living through comedy?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. The journey of artists, I guess, all take unique paths. You first are more concerned about just trying to be good at your craft. It's hard enough. Comedy is one of the most difficult performance arts in the world. I've known lots of musicians, and I was a professional magician before I was a comic. So I've known lots of artists, but to a person, they just fear and are in awe of stand-up comedy. There's something about that unique necklace tightrope walk that just really is an admiration to most people who are in the arts. Now, when you start doing that, you really have to decide not even if you're funny, because that's hard enough. But usually if you're good at making people laugh, you're thinking, I guess I can do this. People laugh. I'm pretty good at this. My friends thinks I'm funny, and yeah, I'm interested in comedy. That's the least of the difficulty. The difficulty of stand-up comedy is learning to take this sort of natural humor you might have that you do with your friends and take it to a stranger who's never met you and instantly create this bond with them that you already have with friends. That's the first challenge. The second one is, are you willing to stand in front of a bunch of people who basically tell you you suck for like a million times until you figure this game out, and the whole time you don't know, do I suck and I'm really just going to take a beating for a while until I finally get my senses and flee, or do you think, you know what, I'm gonna fight this thing because I know I can do this, I just haven't figured out how, and I'm willing to take whatever it takes to get there. That's what a comic is, because there's lots of folks that say, oh, he's so funny. Yeah, but if he can't or she can't stand in front of an audience, be willing to accept the single biggest fear people have, speaking in front of a crowd, you're not going to be able to be a comic, because that's what you have to overcome, the ability to not be liked until you learn how your craft works.
Yes, that is a lot of hard work and dedication. I've been in the arts for a really long time as a dancer, started as a dancer and then got into acting and all that kind of thing. And comedy would just really set me over the edge. Like, I do a lot of public speaking things and I come off funnier than what I think that I am, and people laugh. I'm like, okay, this is cool. But like, I don't think I could ever do that for a living and handle that level of rejection that comes with it.
Well, you're wise to just say, I'm a speaker. Yeah, I'm just an inspirational speaker. I'm a motivational speaker, whatever you reference yourself as, because then people say, okay, what do you have to say? Then if you're funny, they're like, oh, she's funny. But if you say, I'm a comic, now you have to be funny, and maybe you have some substance to throw in there. So there's a lot more pressure to be told I am actually funny than it is for people to draw that conclusion on their own. So you're better off where you are, unless you wanted to be a comic, and then you have to kind of say so. But the arts are. I mean, I dated a dancer many years ago. I've been around many, professional musicians. I live in Nashville, so of course I know a lot of those guys. Obviously been around lots of comics. I'm a professional actor and been in numerous films. So I've been in a lot of the different genres of performance arts. And the artist has an itch that they have to scratch, that they can't explain to anybody else. There's no reason for it. If you think about it, there's no reason. The world would continue if we stopped making movies. If they no longer had comics, we'd still have funny people and life would go on. If dancers stopped dancing, maybe life would be a little less fun, but we'd still survive. The arts is something beautiful because it's something else other than the biological existential reality of what makes a human. It transcends that. It goes into the deeper ethers, I believe, where God inhabits, that God is the creator of art, because he wants you to know that you can create from whole cloth, ex nihilo, which is what God did, to create this idea that gives people joy, which is a strictly human experience, the experience of depth, of insight about something that isn't necessarily obvious. It's metaphorical. That's all a human learning experience. The idea of nuance, the idea of, in comedy, sarcasm, satire, all of these tools that were designed to help you find a deeper element of what a human actually is something that is unexplainable without God. Now, again, I'm unapologetic about my belief in God, and some people aren't, but I am, and not because in some ways I feel some sense of superiority, but more about the awe and the gratefulness that there's something bigger than me that gives me some marching orders. And there was a line in 1980, actually, it won the Oscar for Best Picture. It's called Chariots of Fire. And there was a line in that movie where there was this guy who was a missionary, but he was a sprinter. You might remember the movie, I don't know. But anyways, and he was going to try to go into the Olympics, and his sister was really upset because it's like, you're supposed to be serving God and you're supposed to go to China and be a missionary, and now you're going to take off time to go just run this trivial idea that has really no impact. And he said, listen, and this is a true story. He said, I know that I was made for a purpose for China, but God also made me fast. And when I run, I can feel his pleasure. And that to me summed up the artist. When we do what we do, we feel his pleasure. And that's what motivates it. So it's an amazing, a grateful experience to be one of the few chosen to be able to be an artist, because not everybody gets to. That doesn't mean that's better or that we have a more value to the human experience, but certainly a unique place in it that not everybody gets to experience.
I agree with that 100%. Because it just gives you a feeling of connection that I know a lot of people lack, especially when I was a dancer. Like, I can still remember moments of performing where when I was on the stage and I was just like looking up at my hand and I saw the lights and I just felt all this energy. Like it's just a very unique feeling that people that aren't in the arts may not ever experience, maybe in different ways, but it's very different and unique and the same. Like I'm so happy that I got to experience that in my life, that I am meant to be an artist and even use my words with my creativity to inspire people. And especially now in this time, when people need people that are outspoken and just want to speak their truth, when so many people feel like they have to become smaller than what they really are. We're there to expand ourselves, and people see that and they want to embody it. And a lot of people have through, I'm sure, your work as well as my own.
Yeah.
And so watching you and with your skits and the things that you choose is definitely heartwarming, because there's so many people that are afraid to say anything anymore. So like in your travels now, I think, are you on tour right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily tour like a band where you got 40 cities and you're just on a bus. I mean, some comics have done, big guys, Jim Gaffigan's and whatever, they probably have that way, but I don't. I usually do kind of one-off. Somebody brings me in for a specific event. Sometimes I do, like I just did a 15-day tour in Texas with a guy named Rick Green, who was a former Texas state rep, and him and I do a show there together called the Comedy and Constitution Show. So I come up and I do comedy, but I talk about First Amendment rights. I talk about free speech. I talk about religious liberties, things that matter to me, and about my nation that I love. And then he talks about the Constitution and the founders and what was America actually built on, and what is true and what isn't true. So that's one of the things I've done. And that was quite a longer tour than I normally do, though I enjoy it. I'm also doing a show with a guy who is named Jonathan Chiliafaro, who is a opera singer, and him and I do a show called The Spirit of America. And I do my comedy and I talk about America and what it meant to be an American. He comes on as an Italian immigrant who's literally from Italy and sang opera and wanted to become an American. So we talk about what does it mean to choose to come to this country. I always make it very clear to people. I say, let me tell you something. I don't worship the United States of America. I worship God, but I'm grateful for it. And I believe that it's the greatest nation the world has ever known. It has brought more freedom, more opportunity, more ingenuity, the whole idea of the entrepreneur, the self-made man, the American dream that doesn't exist in any other culture, never has. Obviously, it's not a perfect culture, but then again, none is. So I try to make a point of saying, you don't have to love America, but you certainly, if you live here, should be grateful for it, because there's nothing like it. And we know that simply because how do you know if your country's great? Do people want in or do they want out? And nobody's digging holes trying to sneak into North Korea. We have a culture, you alluded to it, you didn't get into specifics. And again, I don't know you personally, so I don't know the depth of your worldview or your presuppositions as to how you see things. You're a dancer, you're an artist, so I can certainly get some sense of your character by that. I know who those people are, and I'm always attracted to those kind of people because they're interesting. I love the mavericks. I love the people that are the outsiders, that are okay with that they don't see it as a victim, but as something that they enjoy, and it makes them exotic and interesting and intriguing to folks. And we play a part. And I think that as a comic, you referenced the way the things have been in the last few years. And again, with the corona crazy that took place, with people being locked into their homes in China, with people starving to death because of they shut down. I mean, in the United States, if they shut down you from going to the store for a week or two, you can handle it. You can't do that in sub-Saharan Africa. You die. So the horrible manner by which they tried to manage this thing and the costs that are unbelievable to people. I don't know if we'll ever retrieve that, but what I do know is this: it helped me see things in a way that I don't know I could have ever seen it before. America, our DNA is unique. We had a constitution that basically said, here's your rights given to you as a free man from God. They made it from God so that a human couldn't change it. And part of that freedom, there's something that comes with that many people are frightened of, and that is risk. Freedom brings with it risk, because to be truly free, you can jump off a cliff. That's true freedom. Right? You can do that. Gonna kill you, but you have the freedom to do that. That's the autonomy that God Almighty gives us, that you have this freedom, and there is a risk. So there's a discipline expected with freedom, and that's self-created. The founders all said that this country will only work if we're a religious people, and they said that because they knew that if we aren't moral people, it's going to fall apart, because we're not going to have a policeman at every corner. We're not going to be a police state. We're not going to be a totalitarian state. So you're going to have to police yourself. Wow. Think of the pressure of expecting people to be virtuous without pretending to be, but actually live a virtuous life. It's very difficult to do. So I see even a deeper value and gravitas to stand-up comedy in regards to watching people's loss of freedoms and free speech, because number one, my livelihood is free speech. I have to have access to every word, every idea, every style of communication as a comic. Number two, historically, we were always the ones that could mock the king and not get our head cut off. Somebody had to be given permission to mock everybody. Everybody.
Right.
Everybody. Not just, they always tell you, oh, you're supposed to punch up if you're a comic, punch up. No, no, no. You punch wherever you want to punch, as long as it's funny. That's what comedy is. And when you ever, and if you ever have someone who tells you that you can't criticize them, be assured they deserve the most criticism, because everybody, what free speech really does and comedy really can do is makes everybody equal. We're all in the same boat. We're all a bunch of screw-ups trying to figure this thing out. We're always falling in a ditch, and we're always catching our hair on fire. But in the end, there's a humanity that a communal humanity that we all kind of understand intrinsically. You go to some very less sophisticated tribe in some South America, you go to New York City, to Manhattan, people want the same thing. They want a safe place to live. They want food on their table. They want their kids to be, they all want the same stuff. We just get there through different philosophies and different ideologies. Some work, some don't, some are dangerous, some are crucial. So as an artist, a comic artist, speaking to another fellow artist, comedy, I think's crucial element is always holding communication sacrosanct, that I get to say whatever I want. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be mean-spirited as a comic or maybe be hurtful. You could be. I don't think that that's going to be helpful or effective if you're trying to be if you're trying to be good at your job. Who's going to want to watch you if you're a jerk, right? But the only way free speech is actually true is if you allow speech you hate to exist. That's the key. And we're not allowing that. We're having people call something hate speech. They're calling it violence. They're now taking people out of their ability to make a living, to be free, to disagree. It's like we are being run by children, because that's how children behave.
Legitimately.
I get whatever I want. Nobody gets to make fun of me. Nobody gets to make a joke. And so I see it as institutionalized narcissism, that people truly are living purely by this sort of narcissistic mentality of, you owe me, I cannot be disturbed, I don't have to adjust for you ever, you have to kowtow to me. I am, the reason I know it's institutionalized narcissism is because whatever they accuse you of is what they're always doing. You're a bigot. They're a bigot. You're intolerant while they're being intolerant. You're being hateful as they hate you. You're being unforgiving as they don't forgive. Critical race theory has no forgiveness. Talk about that compared to my faith of Jesus Christ, who died as God to say, I'm going to take care of all my people. You just come to me. I've done the work for you. That beautiful, amazing, breathtaking idea that God would die, that's unbelievable. Compared to this religion, this cultic religion of cancer known as critical race theory, which comes from critical theory, which comes from the Frankfurt School, which is what political correctness is. It's all Marxist. That ideology It's filled with hate, it's filled with bigotry, it's filled with racism, and it's all about acquiring power. Now, that's not what people normally expect to hear from a comic, but it's almost like I'm coming full circle from your first question you gave me. Is I started out trying to be funny because that's hard enough. And over time, I realized that there were things more important to me that I couldn't not talk about. I'd be a lot more famous. I'd be a lot richer. I'd be a lot more effective if I had just played the game, just been funny, stayed out of cultural ideas, stayed away from specific worldviews that I believe in, not talked about being a Christian, not talked about being a conservative. I could have done that. I couldn't.
How could you at this point? You know, we're literally facing like the demise of humanity, and there's a lot of people that are doing the opposite of what you're doing, just to stay above water, just to play quote unquote fair, but really not fair. So that's why I applaud you so much for just letting loose on this. I mean, how do people not see the direction that this is being shoved in at this point? It's not like the totalitarian tiptoe anymore, where it's like little things, like these are big chunks that are being removed, and people are just like, oh, I don't even know what's going on.
Well, and I think what you said is very poignant, because what broke my heart the most about the Corona crazy, or the cult of Corona, was that was not that I had constitutional rights taken from me, but that American citizens gave their rights away. It meant so little to them that they would gladly give them away as long as they were safe and protected. Again, it's like a childlike view of the world. What value is 3 meals a day and a roof over your head if you're a slave? What kind of a trade is that you gain the whole world and lose your soul? What kind of a trade? How little do you not value liberty? You know, I ask people sometimes in my show, I say, what are you willing to die for? Anything? Because if you got nothing worth dying for, you got nothing worth living for. And people use that term like a metaphor, like some sort of beautiful allegory. It's like, no, I'm serious. We exist. You and I are having this conversation right now without risking somebody coming, bursting into a door with a gun to our head saying, how dare you speak these words? We can't. We don't have to sweat that, because somebody was willing to die for us to have this simple moment. If you aren't soberly hanging on to with both hands this freedom, this liberty, and realize how fragile it is and how quickly it can be stolen, it will go. And once it's gone, there ain't no turning back. You can't get it back. You can't go, oops, too late. You're already in prison and you're dead by now, or you're definitely a slave. So I appreciate that you say, you give me a compliment that I'm standing up for these things, or I'm perhaps courageous about certain things, but I got to tell you, what a sad testimony. If a compliment is thanks for doing the right thing.
Right.
Thanks for doing the courageous thing. Thanks for doing the honorable thing. It shouldn't be a compliment. Should be the norm.
But you're the crazy person, and so am I.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Kit Carson follows you. He's up in Canada. I don't know if you know who Kit Carson is, but he was a radio show host, and he was on the air, and he's like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And he gave this long speech, and he got fired after that. He was like, I need to do better. I need to be better. I need to stand up for my rights. Like, I am, feel like I'm dying inside by not honoring my truth, and I can't put on this show anymore and pretend that this is all normal. This was during the 2020 whole crazy nonsense. And so we did a live with him last week, and he was saying how in Canada, they would literally have to sneak people in their back door in order to like have 1 or 2 friends over. They would shut the lights out, sneak somebody in. They said if a neighbor saw, like the neighbor would call the cops on them. And it because you're speaking about this, that it could all be taken away in a flash. And then you have Canada, which is just above, you just cross one line and you're into that border, that they're already living this reality. And then Trudeau just yesterday or the day before is saying like that he's not going to be able, you're not going to be able to sell the gun. So it's like, this is happening all around us. Like we are the last man standing at this point around the entire world.
Yep. No, we are it. And it's why they're so desperate to inculcate our culture with Marxist ideology. It's the only thing that could destroy us. And that's why they're always attacking the First Amendment. Remember, you have to, critical theory is a formula to inculcate Marxist ideology or communism into the West. And in the Frankfurt School, you probably know this, was intellectuals in the 1920s in Frankfurt, Germany, going, why didn't the proletariat rise up and take control of the businesses and take their fair share and basically revolt against the oppressor, which was the owner of the factories, and they had this middle class that Marx didn't know was going to come into play, that people were happy. They were okay. Hey, I got stuff I never used to have. I'm okay. And so they said to themselves, what are we going to do to create change and take over the West? And the only way you can do that is to deconstruct it. You literally have to destroy the foundation so you can rebuild it in your own image. Well, they do that by critical theory. That's what it was called. They criticize everything that was the West first, but then America, because they came to Columbia University to escape Nazis, ironically, so that they could begin this process in America. And of course, they own the universities, they own the dissemination of information, they own most of the athletes, or at least the owners, they own the networks, they own now corporations. Who used to be capitalist and felt like we're going to be neutral because we want to sell to everybody. Now they're falling into this cancerous racist ideology. And so it morphed with the combination of cultural Marxism and postmodernism, morphed into critical theory, which morphed into critical law theory, which morphed into critical race theory. And that's where we're at. And it's a new religion. It's a secular, atheistic, undergirded religion. Make no mistake, that's why they are take it so personally, because you're attacking their God. It has no substance. It's all word play. It's all, whoever controls the words of a culture controls the culture. They control the words. You can say this, you can't say that, you can't think that, you can't believe that. If I decide that up is down, you have to believe me. You literally are creating psychopaths, and people are falling for it. And this is where I go back to your other reference point. It's like, if you see this and you don't stand up against it, you don't deserve America. You don't deserve to be in the human experience. This is so absurd, what's going on. And you wouldn't fight for that, even if not for you, for your grandkids, for your kids, to give them a shot at knowing what freedom was supposed to feel like. So I apologize if I'm going off on rants here.
No, it's necessary, but you're saying, you're making all these valid points, but then at the same time, when you're saying like the corporations, the news media, they're all owned by 2 or 3 large entities, and you had them, dispersing all this information. So not no one, but there's so many people that don't see anything wrong with this, because these are the people they trusted their whole lives. These are the people that they've grown up watching and looking up to. Like, they would never mislead you. And, and it's so hard to watch, because there's so many of us that are awake to this and have not had the spell cast on us. And that's literally what it is spell casting. And so it's so hard to watch, and you walk down the street and you see these people with masks on and all these, just afraid of human life.
Yeah.
How can you get to that point? And it's so infuriating, but they're under
because it's their religion. Because it's a religion. When you get rid of God, you don't make God disappear. You simply remove him from his place in your soul. What happens is it has to be filled with something, because you're designed as a biological creature and a spiritual creature, together in harmony, not one or the other. And so once you get rid of God, you replace him with an idol. There's always a counterfeit that has to fill the spot because something's missing. And so that's why, if you look at it, I mean, they have all the belief system, scientism, that's what it becomes, this worship of science, as though science, which is simply a wonderful tool to observe the natural world, suddenly becomes a tool that they believe invented the natural world. So they look at the beauty of a landscape or of a sunset or a mountain range. And those of us who are theistic say, look what God has done. And it gives us this great, amazing awe. And they look at it and go, well, yes, this happened by billions of years of accidental cooling of chemicals in dirt and rocks until eventually one of them turned into a biological human being. They believe in they believe in miracles too. They believe in fantasies much deeper than a belief that there's a God that just made us. But they had to fill the space. So you're always seeing a replication, a counterfeit, looking to Fauci as the savior that has the prophet that has the information, to look at the vaccine as your redemption, to see the masks as your crucifix. I mean, it becomes literally.
It's so true.
And it shows each other. Oh, you're one of us. Oh, you're one of us. Oh, they're an outlier. Oh, they're not. Oh, they're a heretic. I didn't wear it from day one. I wouldn't wear them. I would walk into store. I said, I don't care, not doing it. And, people think you're insensitive. So once again, they hijack the virtues of the Judeo-Christian ethic that created the West. They hijack the virtues, being a good citizen, being a good neighbor, being a nice person, being loving. But what they never do, and it's one of the things I've talked about in my shows, is you always have to define your terms. Part of the problem why we have disagreement and friction in trying to communicate is we define our words differently. If somebody says, God loves everybody, I'd say, I agree with you. Then I would say, but what is love? Give me that definition. Does love mean that you can cheat on me and I don't care?
Right.
That's not love. Does love mean that you don't get to be disciplined when you fail? Does love mean that you don't have to be humble? Does love mean that you don't have to sacrifice? Or does love mean whatever I want, I get? That's what they mean.
Right.
Whatever I want, it becomes my right. That's as narcissistic as it can become. Once it's institutionalized or systemic narcissism, then there's in India, they have this class system they've had for eons of the Brahmins, the highest level, and all the class systems, right? And the lowest are called the untouchables. They're by karma. That's what they believe in reincarnation. They did some horrific things, so they come back as these untouchable folks that can never get a good job, never have any. They're mocked, ridiculed, and maligned in culture. And they're called the untouchables. They can't be fixed based on their belief system and their karma. They can't be changed until they die and come back in a better state. I say that the left has become the unteachables. They literally have lost it. Again, I don't know your religious persuasion, or if you have one. I don't mean to assume anything.
No, it's
I'm going to believe. I believe it's demonic. It is so weird and evil and mind-boggling. It's like it's a spiritual dimension of force that these people can't. Yeah, it's unprecedented to see the whole world fall for the same line.
Exactly.
It's never happened. It's never happened before that a communist country would shut down, a theocracy like the Islamic countries would shut down, and free market societies, all three, which are ideologies that are antithetical, all agreed on who was going to rule them.
Right.
Because the state rules the communists, God rules the theocracies, and I guess free market rules the free market or whatever, and or at least the people, if we're looking at America, the republic rules, and all of them bowed the knee to bail when it came to this thing. And that's when I knew, holy crap, this could be the end of the world. This might be what it really looks like when God wraps everything up, because I've never seen anything like this. So that's why I fight. It's why I speak what I speak.
Yep.
It's why I do what I do. I told my family, it sounds dramatic, I said, look, this might kill me. I don't know how deep this goes, man. They might kill me.
More than we could ever imagine. Deeper than we could ever imagine.
Yeah, and I'm sure it is. And I said to them, if that's how it plays out, I want you to know your dad died for something he believed in, because I'm going to die anyways. I mean, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
That's a given. We're all terminally ill. So I said, but you know what? I've had a good run. I've lived a good life. I got to experience the fruit of America and the freedom, and God bless it. So whatever little time I have left, it's my legacy. I got to leave something for you to stand for. And if it all goes south and we get taken over by China or whatever, you'll know that I fought for it, that it was worth dying for. And if you don't have something worth dying for, you don't have anything worth living for. So that's what I'm trying to revisit in America. Are we ready to die for our country's values against? Because if we are, we can win.
Yeah, I'm there with you, and I'm grateful for your time. We have like about a minute left, and this was such a great conversation that is definitely necessary for people to see, because when you think, oh, you have a comedian coming on and it's all fun and games, and it's just, I love to have real conversation, because we're facing such dark energy and forces that are just surrounding us for the last several years. I mean, for a long time, but obviously it's just been on at a much grander scale now, and we can easily see it. And so for us to be able to openly speak about it means so much to so many people. So I'm just glad that I got to have the conversation with you.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I'm glad you're fighting the good fight along with us. I mean, I always feel like I'm a disappointment, because I always know that people assume I'm going to come on and be the comedy guy, that they've watched the clips. But like I said, there's so much more important things to me to talk about. Comedy is the package it comes in. So the humor is what gets me the audience. So I can say to them, there's something you need to know, because time is short and hell is here. We need to get to work.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, that was Brad Stine, and it was definitely more of a serious conversation than I expected, but it was a wonderful conversation. And we get to use our artistry to change the world, no matter what that looks like. Maybe some people are inspired by your art, by the things that you draw, or the things that you create, or the things that you can do with your body or your mind. And I think a lot of us are using our artistry to tell the story of what's unfolding now, whether it is in a comedic way or whether it is with your body. When I do any of my yoga stuff, like I always have something written out that will hopefully help inspire people to continue to move, continue to bring awareness, and continue to stand in your power, or to find your power, and whatever that looks like. So this conversation was a great one, and I look forward to being on his show as well. Please like, share, subscribe, especially share, because even Rumble does a lot of the censoring crap. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Krystal Tini TV. If you guys are interested, sign up for more information on our Nourish My Soul Retreat, which is going to be in Tulum, Mexico. I'm so excited about it. We have some amazing speakers, and it's going to be the best time. I can't wait to hang out with all of you and be under the sun and the moon and the stars together. So I'll see you all soon. I don't have a bio for him. I don't. So I'm just gonna have to wing it. I think I need to start eating more food.